Alright. Okay, so after a few tries, I was able to get the air horn back on. It is a serious pain in the ass. You're gonna have a couple of things that are gonna be fighting you. This thing isn't gonna want to go through there straight. The accelerator pump is gonna be being, a real tough one. Your TPS unit, little claw thing is always, it's gonna want to catch. That was the thing that was hanging me up, so I just banged it back with the little flat feeler there. You could use a screwdriver or a gasket scraper or any kind of thin thing like that. Putty knife works. And then also your choke assembly, this guy right here, is also going to be causing problems, and this is actually wedged in between these two things, so I'm going to have to loosen these screws here and pop it back. But this is going to be fighting you as well. So the second that you get this thing on flush, you're going to want to put a screw in right here and a screw in right here just to hold it so it doesn't want to go around. But I'm going to have to loosen these because this thing is underneath that, and it's caught. So the whole thing is locked up right now. Alright, now that I got that taken care of, you're going to want to make sure that this choke assembly here is still attached down in there in the well, because if it's not, see this one, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see it with the light, but you can kind of see down in there, this one is still attached. If it's not, you're going to have to reattach it, and it's a real pain to do. So hopefully, best wishes to you that stays attached on there. Okay, so obviously what you're going to do now is you're going to put all the screws back in and get it locked down, reattach your vacuum brake here, you don't want to forget that, and stick that piston for the TPS unit back in the hole right there. So we'll do that. Okay, something I always try to stress to people when I help them put carburetors back together is that these here screws do not need to be so tight. I see people putting them on here and just cranking the crap out of them. You don't have to do that. You just need to you need to put them together and just turn them until they stop turning. You don't need to torque them. You don't need to, I missed that one. You don't need to torque them. You don't need to wrench on them. You don't need to just put all your might into them. You just need to get them tight. So here's an example, since this one's right here. Well, actually this one seems like it wants to have some resistance, so I'm gonna have to put the camera down for that one too. But you just sort of put them in and you turn them until they don't turn anymore. You don't have to really wrench on them. You don't have to do any of that crap. You just sort of put them on so they won't come off, So get your vacuum brake on there, and then we'll get the choke assembly thing put back on. We got to get our metering rods in there too. So I'll show you how to do that as well here. All right. So as for your metering rods, your secondary metering rods here. That is going to be, it's a difficult task, but it's also a very simple one. You just gotta get a light and shine it down in there, and you're not gonna be able to see it with the camera and the light, but there's two holes. Maybe you will, I don't think so though. Yeah, it's not gonna show it. There's two holes you'll see. Oh, right there. See that hole at the bottom? It's kind of dark, but you can see it. That one too. That one's got one too, but I don't think you're gonna see that one. That hole right there, that dark abyss. There's a little hole at the bottom of that. And you're going to want to make sure that the tips of your rods go in to the end of that hole. And it can be a little difficult, especially if one of these things drops off the hook. But all you got to do is take the metering rod hanger thing, this guy, and float this directly straight above and drop it in. Alright, so once you get that in there, I just dropped it straight down. Took a couple of tries because it was hitting the edges of it. But you'll know if they're not in, because some people say, oh, you can't really tell if they're in or not, you kind of just have to guess. That's kind of false, because if they're not in all the way, for starters, they won't be straight like this, but when you do this with these, the metering rods are affected. And if they sort of feel like they're hitting something, or they don't want to go in all the way, when you do this, that means they're not in all the way, they're not straight. So, I know I got them in straight by doing that. Next thing you're going to want to do here is put that choke flapper back on, and it's gonna be, you might think, oh, it's difficult because you got to find the exact sweet spot for it, but it wants to be about right there. And you got to take this thing here and see that lip on that side, that goes towards the right. So this goes on here about like that. Right there like that. It sort of snaps on. It's going to hold it. This little lip here is going to hold that just like that. See it snap on? And I can't do it with one hand. But once you get that on there, you put the screw in it. But before you even bother with that, you want to put this rod in this hole. And then you put the screw in. And then your choke plate will be about like that. Alright, now you see this? It's looped in there like that. It's about like this. This carburetor is completely cold now, so the choke is completely closed. And the way to test it is there's a coil inside of here. I can actually show you how it works. I have it over on the bench, a different one that's broken. There's a coil inside here that's pushing this way, and it'll be pushing against the force of this. So if you go like this, and it goes like that, you know you got it set right. So that's how that works. The choke itself, this is what the choke itself looks like. You see, it's just this little metal tang, and it's on a diaphragm, see? And this thing here will unravel when it gets warm, like that. This side right here pushes up against your choke high idle cam, allowing it to shut the choke plate like that. So when this is hot and it's open like that, it's got no spring force to it. See this? See that? That's what we're fighting against when I move that flapper up and down, is this spring action right here, like that. So if your choke's not hooked up right or it's not set up right, your carburetor choke plate won't do this. See that? Shuts. Alright, next thing, last but definitely not least, is getting your accelerator pump set up. So first thing, you want to push down on that. Make sure that it does have spring to it, and it does. It goes all the way down, comes back up. This thing's got spring to it as well. Make sure you put that thing in there. Put your choke arm, or put your your throttle accelerator pump arm on here, and pound the little thing back. You're gonna want to take a flathead and bang it, pry it back towards you a little bit. Once it's in there, then you can slide your accelerator linkage and put the cotter pin back in. Alright, see that? I drove the pin back in. It's sitting on that, it's sitting on that. I got my accelerator arm linkage back up in there. And what I use to drive that pin is this little screwdriver. This is actually from some kind of lawnmower repair kit. This isn't even an automotive tool. It's just a cheap little thing from Harbor Freight. But you might need a little bit of a beefier screwdriver than this, depending on the carburetor that you have. But I just stuck it in between here and here, like that, and pushed it like that, up into there. And there was a little bit of a nubbin still sticking out, so I just wedged it like this and did the same thing, and just did that. And that's how I got it to go in. It just sort of popped back in after a certain amount of force was given to it. So yeah, that's how you do your float level on a quadrajet carburetor. That's the E4MC, E4ME series, electronically controlled quadrajet. Quite a bit more complicated than the regular quadrajet carburetor, but all in all, it's not all that more difficult. You just kind of got to know what you're doing. Again, I don't claim to be an expert. I just claim to be someone who's done it enough times that I don't even need to watch videos anymore to do it. So if you want more information on how everything works and why you got to do things certain ways, I suggest you check out Tyler's Forgotten Car Rescue on YouTube. He's got a whole video, a whole playlist of like 70-some videos on these quadrajets, and they're actually quite detailed as well. They're very good videos. That's where I learned all my quadrajet stuff from. Don't rely on old guys that say, oh, you gotta take out all them electronics, it'll run better anyway. No, it won't. You gotta do it the way that they intend you to do it from the factory. So I hope these videos help people. I always try to make sure my videos help people. But this one seemed like one that I was dreading to do myself. So I hope it helps some people along to do this. I'm going to throw this back in the car now and give it a shot. If it doesn't work, then I guess I'll put it in the description. And I'll keep on trying to figure out what's wrong with it. So, hope I helped you. Have a nice day.